Congressman Michael Burgess, a Louisville Republican, the longest-serving medical doctor in Congress, and the lawmaker who led the charge for unwinding the Affordable Care Act earlier this year. Joining the questioning, as always, Bud Kennedy of the Star-Telegram. Congressman, good to see you, sir.
Good Sunday morning. Thanks for having me on.
A Pilot Point Republican, I believe.
A Pilot Point. Denton County, that should cover it, right?
I have traveled extensively in the 26th Congressional District of Texas.
Let's start with health care, Congressman. A Fox News poll shows only 27% of people support the Senate health care bill. Is it time for Republicans to pull this off the table, to work it out, figure out what to do instead of ramming it through?
Here's the difficulty, of course, is Senate procedure, and this has been the part of the problem from the beginning, having to do this under what is called reconciliation, because the Senate has the filibuster, the 60-vote rule, which you would never achieve 60 votes to undo the Affordable Care Act. It has to be at a 51-vote majority. As a consequence, that's reconciliation. No one wants to hear about Senate procedure, but that's the fact of life. That means the portions of the health care law with which you can deal are relatively limited. So you saw that on the House side. You saw that play out on the House side. The senators are essentially dealing with the same variables that the House had to deal with.
I realize you're in the chamber across the rotunda there, but an amendment was added to the Senate bill that says, correct me if I'm wrong, if you go without insurance for 63 days, then you get locked out of coverage for 6 months.
Well, correct. And the House had a provision that would have increased the premium for 1 year by 30% for someone who failed to keep continuous coverage. Continuous coverage, I mean, Medicare has a continuous coverage provision. Medicare Part D, Part B, both have continuous coverage provisions. So the concept is not new. The Senate took a different approach to what we took on the House side. If you're going to ask me, I actually preferred what we did on the House side, but I understand why the Senate has approached it in the way they have.
In a free market, though, why punish people?
Well, in a free market, there is the requirement, of course, to actually have insurance and participate in the market. If the reason you don't have the insurance desk in the body shop, you have it in the showroom. You got to buy the insurance before you have the car wreck, right?
Congressman, the response is so loud. There's such a din of response saying you're killing people and you're taking away everyone's health care and all this hubbub. Explain what the purpose is. It's fiscal responsibility, and explain why you see this as necessary for the nation.
Number one point, Obamacare is not working. And, we can argue the political side of that, whether it's Republicans or Democrats who are at fault, but Obamacare is not working, and it is becoming more desperate every month that goes by, and you hear of another insurer that is pulled back from another market. We're down to just a couple in the district that I represent, a couple of insurers in the individual market, in the Obamacare market. The situation is becoming dire. It takes a while to change. A lot of people say, we really need to lower premiums. I agree with that. I want to lower premiums, but there's nothing I can do legislatively today that will lower premiums this year, because those contracts are already set. And in fact, by state law, the data that creates the premium price for next year has already been created and collected, and the State Commissioner of Insurance has already received that information. So in many ways, the premium is already set for next year. It becomes very, very difficult to move things, but it's so important, because if we don't, the likelihood of people just absolutely having to go without is very real. So you'd say, well, why in the world you say the Republicans are going to take people away from their health care? It's actually not true. Look just on the Medicaid side, where yeah, it's a big entitlement reform that we passed on the House side. We don't get much credit for that. That wasn't a headline, but at the same time, we are spending an additional 20% on Medicaid year over year for the next 10 years. The difference is we're not spending the 58% increase on Medicaid that is under current law, and that's what's unsustainable. If you continue down that path, every dollar in the discretionary budget is spent in Medicaid in the year 2025. Nothing for education, nothing for roads, nothing for the defense of our nation.
Congressman, it's July, though. Repealing and replacing Obamacare continues to be uncertain. Is the president's agenda in doubt?
No, but it hurts that it has taken so long, and I acknowledge that, and I accept that reality.
Can tax reform
I was
happen?
hopeful that the Senate would do something before the 4th of July. I mean, obviously, Leader McConnell said that was his plan too. They need to get their work done. They need to come to a consensus. We may have other ideas after they pass their bill. It is not just to pass the Senate and then it's done. It's pass the Senate and then either the House has a different version or concurs. That all takes time too. You are correct. Tax reform, and here's the biggest issue for the president and his agenda. Yes, health care is important. Yes, tax reform is important. But what's really important, the reason the president got elected, was to create a situation where growth in this country, growth of the GDP, is back to that 3% range. We've been mired at the 1.5% range for a long time, and that has hurt people. That is what has created the stagnation in wages. This is what will be judged. The president will be a success if growth in the GDP comes back to a 3% range, which is, after all, just like saying we got the body back to 98.6 temperature. It's just normal, but we've been below normal for so long. That has been defined as normal, and that's what has to change.
Congressman, we have 30 seconds left here, too. You talked about the president's success. How much is this sideshow of him being on Twitter distracting everything?
Well, it doesn't distract me, but generally it's not helpful.
We appreciate you being here, Congressman. A lot more to talk about, and look forward to having you back